There's a lady Slimer in this movie as well.
Slimer gets to smash.
Yes. Wait, sorry, digression. This is in the entire Ghostbusters universe. What was Slimer before he died?
I actually
don't think too hard on it.
That's one thing that's... I know. I heard a theory online that he was Andrew Breitbart.
Ooh.
Nice.
I think there might be something to that.
I don't know. Wait, Will, we sidetracked from the fight.
So the action movie climax of this movie, like I said, is the Ghost Girls have to fight their way through a haunted Times Square, and they're using their proton accelerators to blast a whole bunch of ghosts.
Which doesn't make sense, by the way. Just another digression. They use their proton packs to basically kill the ghosts.
Which is upsetting
Not trap
to me.
them.
In
You
ghost
trap the
science
ghosts.
You trap them. Yes, thank you.
You trap them. You don't kill them. And the thing is that they trapped them earlier in the movie. It's not like they decided to change it for this movie where now we're killing the ghosts with the proton pack. They were catching them merely scenes earlier.
With the movie. Thank you.
It's insane. It's awful.
Madness.
Once again, in this sequence, they're fighting a bunch of ghosts. Now, and throughout it, there is a giant ghost that is sort of directing all of the other ghosts. And that ghost is a giant, ghoulish Uncle Sam, who is the avatar of ghost patriarchy and masculinity. My God. And what he's doing is he is sending wave after wave of smaller ghosts at them. Smaller ghosts that include a pilgrim, an executed convict, a hobo of some kind.
Revolutionary War soldier?
Probably a 9/11 firefighter.
I ain't getting busted by no lady. Yeah, I have the dust all over me.
All of these archetypes of masculinity.
All of these are archetypes.
You call this ghost pizza? Forget about it.
Hey!
It's a pirate, a hobo, and so on and so on. These are the avatars of traditional ghost masculinity that are literally being popped by the Lady Ghostbusters as they make their way to the giant building that's haunted. That's also a phallic symbol.
Because if that's not enough, what just happened there, at the very end of the movie, the head ghost, the incel Gamergate
ghost
becomes a giant version of the ghost from the Ghostbusters logo, and he's stalking towards them, and they're trying to suck him into this vortex with their proton packs, which now, or they have this, there's something pulling them towards this vortex, but he's holding the sides of buildings so that he can't be pulled in, and so to get him to move his ghost arms so that it'll suck him into the vortex, they shoot him in the dick.
Yep. But
right in the groin.
But
clap back, baby.
But I mean, let's talk about he's a giant ghost. I was watching for research because I take this very seriously. All of my podcast appearances I take very seriously. I was rewatching one last night with a friend, and it gets to the end, and it's a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, which is, by the way, genius. It's like they invented a very believable brand, and like a cutesy brand, and then made it menacing and made it like a kaiju monster attacking the city.
Yeah, it was fucking awesome.
Great. And it's also kind of hilarious and ironic and weird and modern. And my friend who I was watching this with was like, well, who's the big monster in the new one? And I was like, a ghost? He's like, yeah, I know, but what is it? And I'm like, no, it's like a big ghost. Like a ghost, kind of ghost, but really big. And also, it's the exact same premise. Choose the form of your destruction. And Melissa McCarthy says, a little cute ghost. And then it just becomes a big ghost. So they, literally took the original premise from the first movie, but then couldn't think of, another interesting thing to do with your subconscious that you would imagine or whatever.
It goes further than that. The like I said, the climax, it's an inversion of the original Ghostbusters. Because if you will remember in that, when they're on top of the building on Central Park West, the gateway is open, and they have to they have to cross streams, once again, like men putting their dicks together. very phallic, to confront Gozer the Gozerian. Now, if you remember in that, Gozer was very butch. She had a flat top. And I believe the line that Bill Murray says
based off of Grace Jones. They originally tried to get her for the movie. Before that, they wanted to use Paul Rubens and just make him the architect of the weird, super paranormal building and make him this unassuming Paul Rubens character. But eventually, they went with like this weird Eastern European chick who looks like a white Grace Jones. Anyway, trivia for you.
I did not know that. But Bill Murray says, "Aim for the bitch's flat top," right? So at the end of the original Ghostbusters,
that's kind of what he said. It was, "Let's show this bitch how we do these things downtown. Aim for the flat top." But I digress. Go on.
Who's the bitter nerd now, Amber?
I'm always the bitter nerd.
But at the end of
at least you're not the beer nerd.
At the end of the original Ghostbusters, patriarchal authority is reestablished. It is reinstilled over ghost femininity.
Right.
And
sleazy
in this
Boomer
movie,
gets the girl, and yeah.
And in this movie, and over and over again, phallic male authority is cut down by 4 badass women.
Mm-hmm.
Now they could have taken this further in a number of ways that I think they blew it. I think they missed an opportunity. And just a couple things off the top of my head. At the end of the movie, as Matt mentioned, there's a ghost vortex, again, I think coded as being very vaginal, that sucks in the big Gamergate ghost. Gamergate ghost, right before he is sucked into the vagina/vortex, grabs Melissa McCarthy and, brings her down with him. Kristen Wiig sees this. She's like, no, I'm not going to let this happen. She ties a rope around herself and jumps into the vortex to save Melissa McCarthy. Now, I thought in this scene, when they're both sort of, past the veil on the other side, they should have, had some call-outs. They should have maybe been greeted by the ghosts of Virginia Woolf and Sylvia Plath. And they should have been like, fellow ghost girls, it's better over here now. But for the women of today, don't kill yourself.
Yeah.
It's better now.
We worked hard so that you could continue our fight.
Okay. Example number 2. We haven't discussed this, but Kate McKinnon's character in this movie. Kate McKinnon, who is a gay woman in real life. Her character in this movie is coded as being gay, but not in any explicit way. It's sort of obvious if you know about it, but it's never
But if you're a lady
stated.
looking for ladies and you were to see that lady, you'd be like, I bet that's an amenable lady.
Yeah. So they had this gay character played by a gay actress in this movie. And if they wanted to do that and be, feminist, but still call out the original and give the fans something to hoot and holler about, they should have remade, my favorite scene in the original Ghostbusters, where Dan Aykroyd gets cross-eyed from a ghost blowjob. Mm-hmm. They should have done that. Kate McKinnon should have gotten head from a lady ghost.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That would have been a truly revolutionary film, but they just didn't have it in them.
Well, again, they kept it PG-13.
Exactly.
The original Ghostbusters was PG, and Dan Aykroyd got head in that movie.
And they still said
women,
bitch, and yeah.
Yeah. That is sexist. That's the first real example of sexism that we found.
My favorite homage to previous Ghostbuster stuff in the movie is not any of the bad cameos. It's the fact that they gave Kate McKinnon the haircut and glasses of Egon from the Ghostbusters cartoon.
Yeah, something that so many gay women on my Twitter immediately were like, yeah, I liked that cartoon as a girl.
Well, it gave me some things to ponder, because when I first saw Kate McKinnon in her Ghostbusters ensemble and hairstyle, I was like, damn. So that makes me wonder, did I want to fuck Egon when I was a kid?
I think you did, yeah.
Almost certainly, yes.
Well, I don't want to overstate, the significance or whatever, the literary resonance of Ghostbusters. I do think people kind of went, and I legitimately loved this movie as a kid. I watched it obsessively. I think it was the first thing I ordered when I got my Amazon Prime account. but it's an extremely reactionary movie. I mean, like,
oh hell yeah,
Harold Ramis's sort of like, I think, fantasy audience. I mean, you think about it. These are guys that are academics. They get laid off, and then they become these blue collar, guys who wear jumpsuits and have their names printed on them. And then this guy from the EPA shows up and he's busting their balls. And then go even further, and in the sequel, they did their job too well. And now the city no longer needs American auto manufacturing. I mean, Ghostbusters. And, yeah.
Amber, that's my favorite part about, I think the underrated Ghostbusters 2, is that when Ghostbusters 2 begins... When Ghostbusters 2 begins, all of the Ghostbusters are, like, semi-retired... working bullshit jobs, sort of feeding off their semi-ghostbusting fame, where it's just like, hey, remember a year ago when we participated in the, we're at the center of the single most profound event in all of human history?
Nobody believes
people
in
forgot
ghosts.
About that.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. They go to the judge. First of all, they ask for a bench trial for some reason. I don't understand why they had a bench trial.
Yeah.
And the judge makes a big deal about how he doesn't believe in ghosts. Didn't you remember the giant fucking marshmallow man?
Yeah. I mean,
in the middle of Manhattan.
The movie is full of plot holes and has been consistently. The only way I explain that away in my head is that there would definitely be ghost truthers, like, after the fact. And there would be, like, a mass denial of what happened. And there would be people who believe
Inside job.
Yeah, inside job. But yeah, I mean, it's a super, sort of, not terrible reactionary movie, but I think Ramis's, like, ideal audience was, like, what we call now the kind of, like, union Reagan voter who, there weren't actually that many of those people anyway. The working class didn't en masse vote for Reagan, but, like, those kind of people. And if you look at, like, sort of the working class sentiments of the movie, like, that's the kind of reactionary appeal that it has, and that's what Ramis has always sort of, like, wrote about.
Now,
you never
Thomas
been out of college. I worked in the private sector. They expect results.
I was going to say, Thomas Frank, actually, in The Baffler, one of your home bases, Amber, I think that had a very good essay about the sort of entire genre of 80s comedies, most of them either written by or directed by Harold Ramis, how this whole genre of comedies in the 80s, the slobs versus snobs movie, Ghostbusters, Caddyshack, Animal House, a lot of them.
Platoon.
They're all very reactionary and proof positive. I remember reading something from Jonah Goldberg where he said Ghostbusters was his favorite comedy because the villain was a big government EPA bureaucrat, and it was a movie that valorized the small business entrepreneur.
But I don't actually think they're that resentful. I actually think Thomas Frank he tapped into something, but I think he was really off. And this might just be me rationalizing it because I liked the movies. But, okay, first of all, they did start out as university professors. They were PhDs. And Bill Murray's love interest in it, played by Sigourney Weaver, in the first movie, she plays cello for the fucking symphony in New York City, and then she somehow makes that lateral movement to restoring paintings for the Metropolitan Museum of Art. That familiar career path we all know and love. So, like, she
has a degree in fanciness. It's transnational all throughout all areas of high culture.
The first movie too. It's just like covered in like pink things, and it's just like super prissy. But yeah, no, I think Thomas Frank kind of missed the mark a little bit. But the slob versus snob thing, that is Ramis's hallmark, and I do like it. And I also like, and I realized this is like consistently sort of like my favorite character theme in like literature or movies, is I like movies about failures and frauds. And Ghostbusters was, about failures and frauds. Like, either they failed or they were, like, Bill Murray completely full of shit. And there was no one, he didn't even believe in it. He was just electrocuting a guy for fun at some point. Like, it's a ridiculous concept. They're not particularly likable people. And I kind of wonder if they didn't want to make the women and Lady Ghostbusters too likable. There was no fraud. in Lady Ghostbusters.
It's worse than that. Pete Venkman was electrocuting that guy so he could...
Was it insinuated that the girl and him were dating?
Yeah, I
think
thought they were a couple.
reading into that.
Okay, it's my own projection. Speaking of my own projection, I forgot the other thing about the original Ghostbusters. Remember the Rick Moranis character who's thirsty as hell for Sigourney Weaver?
Also, Rick Moranis did some actual like major script contributions to the original Ghostbusters. He does not get enough credit for being like a really comedically smart guy.
Yeah, Rick Moranis.
Try to bring it to room temperature.
Definitely the funniest parts of the original Ghostbusters were his character. But it's like the whole purpose of the ghost invasion of that movie is like a giant plot device so that he can finally fuck his hot next door neighbor, right?
he gets on that Sigourney Weaver. Yeah. And then again, he does another ridiculous, nonsensical lateral movement in the second movie where he goes from CPA to lawyer. Like, they just don't care about consistency.
He has a degree in Jew. See?
Which is why eventually Janine gets up on that. She loves the Jewish men.
Once again, hero.
She's a hero. I love her so much.
In summary, I'm going to be a little bit easier on this movie than Matt and Amber. I walked out of the movie and I wasn't angry, so I'll give it that.
Yeah.
I would say this movie is comedy adjacent. Side-eye clapback, though. There's about I think maybe 3 or 4 gags that were good.
Yeah.
But and Amber, as we mentioned, we saw this sort of on a weekday evening in a theater of like kind of middle-aged women and their kids, like the most sympathetic middle-aged African-American women and their kids. Probably the most sympathetic audience you can get for a comedy. Most of the jokes just didn't land.
Flat. Yeah.
It just, most of the things that were supposed to be funny, it just kind of...
I mean...
What was good in the movie was what the talent of the 4 leads were able to get out of it, but it just, there wasn't enough there. There wasn't enough there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be too hard on it. I just, as a feminist... And as a writer...
As a feminist and the world's biggest Ghostbusters fan.
Yeah, and the world's biggest Ghostbusters fan. And as a writer, I don't like being pandered to. And movies are bad right now. And I want to see women making movies and in movies and, women sort of, like, led and carried movies. But, like, it's one of those things where how significant is representation if we're being represented in... just the worst kind of bullshit bourgeois art. I mean, I'm really to understand that is bringing a lot to, like, a summer blockbuster or whatever. But, here's the argument. Either you believe representation matters, and I tend to think that it matters far less than sort of like the liberal media thinks it does, or you think it doesn't matter. And if you think it does matter, women should get good movies and good parts and not just have to like reboot like nostalgia this nostalgia era that we're in right now, not just have to like reboot these things that have been like focus grouped to death so they're like, well, people will definitely see this, and then just like plaster it together after like years of testing. I think women can make just funny movies. I think we can all just like start making movies again that aren't comic books or young adult literature or a reboot of something from our childhood.
Counterpoint, Amber. Quote, I didn't think about anything except that a woman was getting the same big, slow-mo, blowing shit up scene a million guys have gotten, and this scene is awesome. I've always loved that scene. Women are treated as big, boundary-breaking, historic symbol of women aren't treated as a big, boundary, historic-breaking symbol of progress and equality in this movie. They're treated like people.
It's such Hillaryism. It's absolute Hillary.
I'm quoting Sadie Doyle.
That's Hillary exploding a wedding in Yemen.
Yeah.
It's a girl's turn, baby.
Yeah. Sisters are doing it now.
In the interest of equality, I haven't seen the movie. I don't know anything about Ghostbusters. I don't really know the movies. I don't really watch movies. I don't really process information that I see through my eyes.
The Quran.
Yeah, I just kind of read the Quran and I react to things. But it ruled. Bring on motherfucking Lady Deadpool, bitch.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to be too hard hard on it again. I think the cast is great. It's exactly the kind of movie that gets made now. And so it's not going to be good. Because the movies that get made now are bad.
The movies are bad. You don't have to get so invested in them.
Yeah, anyway, everyone should absolutely read that article